Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the round reviews. This time we're going through round 7. Now, round 7 had some big blowouts. You know, it wasn't a round. In fact, there was one close game, really. Like, if you're honestly looking like the outcome, maybe 2 you could argue, but I would go with 1. We're going to start off with my team, Richmond Melbourne. Now, as you would all know, I don't go into much depth about the Richmond games because I always upload a separate video every week about whatever game Richmond played because I am a Richmond fan. So if you want some more analysis on that, go check it out. I've already uploaded it. Long story short, the umpires fucked us. I think it was 24-12 free kicks. Absolutely ridiculous. We played well. They played poorly. The reality is the umpires were against us. We didn't kick straight, 5-12, and Melbourne are just a better team. And also we lost Hop Up through injury. We're going to move swiftly on because, like I said, we've already talked about that game in detail. Richmond are third last now. Melbourne find themselves in the top 4. Game of the round, arguably game of the year, Essendon Collingwood. I mean, what a fantastic game this was. It was Essendon, and then it was Collingwood and Essendon. And I feel like Essendon probably, I thought they were going to get up until the last quarter where the scoring just stopped. It stopped. No one scored at all, apart from that last point from Carl Langford, who had a brilliant game. Now, this was obviously ANZAC Day, right? Massive game, massive stakes. But unfortunately for both teams, no one really celebrated. It's always awkward after a draw because, yeah, there's just no cheers in the crowd. It's just silence and like murmurs and this weird feeling like no one's really won. So, you know, it begs the question, do we get extra time, golden point? Should we implement something to stop a draw? I personally don't really care. I'm happy with either one. Now, it was 12 goals, 13 to each. Langford, like I said, had a brilliant game. He kicked 4 goals, but he missed that last set shot. Jamie Elliott missed that last mark. I thought as soon as I saw that ball was going to Jamie Elliott, I thought, game over. Game over, he's going to mark it. All he needs is a point from, you know, basically outside 50 on the boundary line, and he'll get a point. But he just dropped the mark, unfortunately. Mychek had a really good game. Other players that was good. Merritt got the award. I thought Andy McGrath and Nick Martin were better. They were really good. Dacos had a decent game. Darcy Moore, I thought, led from the back. There were a lot of players who could have won that award. Even the likes of Parrish, I think, had an alright game. But absolutely fantastic football match. Probably game of the year. And I would be very, very keen to see how the next fixture of these two teams come back. They're definitely playing again later on in the year. Great game. Ultimately, both teams find themselves around the top 8. Essendon in 7th, Collingwood in 10th. 1 game difference. Next up, probably a bit of a boring game. The Giants dominated Brisbane, 54-point victors. It was sort of, you know, a game of great quality in the first half. It was Giants and Brisbane came back. And then the Giants in the second half of the game said, suck my big fat schlong. I'm going to put my wood down on the table and you're going to get served a big giant sausage. I don't know what just came out of my mouth, but the Giants were much better. They blew them out the water. Brisbane looked answerless. They looked devoid of effort. They looked really poor, and it could be season over already for Brisbane, who are sitting in 13th place, 7 games played, 2 games won, on a percentage of 94.2, 2 above West Coast. So it's a long season for them. Now, in terms of future games, next week they do have the Gold Coast Football Club. It is a derby, so I feel like that game's not guaranteed theirs, but it is at the Gabba. And then the week after that, they have Adelaide at Adelaide Oval, who I feel like are going to find form really soon. Watch out for Adelaide. So some tough games ahead. There's no guaranteed victories for the Lions. For the Giants, they sit 3rd on the ladder, sorry, not 2nd. 3rd, 24 points, same as Sydney, but just with a worse percentage at 136. It was an absolute it was a game of the year for Tom Green. Sorry, that's what I'm trying to say. I feel like he's played all right this year, hasn't really gone to that Brownlow level yet this year, but this was the game. 37 touches, a goal, 5 marks, 5 tackles, 7 clearances. Absolutely phenomenal. Kieran Briggs was great as well. He had 8 clearances. Alongside Josh Kelly had a goal, 25 touches. Finn Callahan had a great game. Himmelberg. Look, all the possession getters, the clearance getters, the tacklers were all from the Giants pretty much, apart from Josh Dunkley, who had 20 touches and 9 tackles. He can stand tall. Riccardi carried the forward line with 3 goals. I thought the Brisbane line did well to keep, what's his name? I'm having a mental blank. Jesse Hogan to one goal, sorry. But that's a match that I want to forget, and I think Brisbane's season could already be over. Next up, we have a game that I thought Saints were going to win. And by the way, I did tip Melbourne. I got that right. I tipped Collingwood, I think, but they drew. Giants, I got that right. And I tipped St Kilda, but Port Adelaide won. Port Adelaide won the game, and they looked dominant. Look, from the first bounce, they looked the better team. The fact St Kilda were ahead at parts of the game is astonishing. I mean, 11 goals, 16 to 11 goals, 6. They kicked 10 extra points, Port Adelaide. They were so inaccurate, but St Kilda was so poor. Even when Port Adelaide had all those injuries, Rosie went out, Ali had a concussion, Pal Pepper did his knee. Even though they were down 2 rotations, they couldn't find anything St Kilda. They were poor, they were useless, and it was disappointing. Dixon had him on smoke, but Willie Rioli, had a good game. There weren't many outstanding midfielders for Port. I thought they just played a great midfield game altogether, if that makes sense. St Kilda were just so poor. And I think, having only won 2 games and, you're up to round 8, that's just not good enough. It is not good enough. Yes, they've gotten a bit unlucky, but, Jack Steele, 15 touches. That's not good enough. Yes, you get 9 tackles, but it's just not good enough. They're losing their way. Their forwards aren't playing well. They're missing King, and ultimately they find themselves 14th on the ladder. Port Adelaide are sitting comfortably in 5th place with a decent percentage. I was let down by St Kilda, but St Kilda always let their fans down, so nothing new there. Next up, we've got the Adelaide Football Club. We took on North Melbourne, and this was a game that was fucking boring. Nothing much really happened. I said North had a chance, but I did tip Adelaide, and Adelaide were just better. Apart from Sheasel and McKercher and Davies Uniacke, and maybe you could say Zohar, they were just blown out. Rankin was good, Walker was good, Dawson led, the midfielders were good. Adelaide finally get their second win, and they find themselves 12th on the ladder, below the Western Bulldogs. And, well, North Melbourne are still winless. Big question marks about Clarko. Is he done? Is the game past him? Is that passion still there for Clarko? There's a lot of questions about that. Look, he's got to be the guy. You can't sign Clarko and it not work out. That can't happen. We'll move swiftly on to the Geelong-Carlton game, which I also thought was probably the game of the round alongside the ANZAC Day clash. The first 3 quarters were phenomenal, back and forth. Generally, Geelong were always a little bit ahead, but Carlton would come back until that last quarter where Geelong kicked away. They got to a 33 point lead, and Carlton said, fuck you, and they got all the way down to within a 2-goal game, and then Geelong just kicked that last goal. It was a phenomenal football match, and I thought it was really interesting to watch how the forwards went. Jeremy Cameron had a phenomenal game. He's arguably the most informed player in the comp. Curnow, I thought, had a really good game. I mean, wow, the Geelong Football Club, they have not lost a game yet, sitting comfortably first on the ladder. And Carlton, for a team that I thought have had a really good year, they are sitting in 6th place with 112 percentage, which isn't that good. So if you're a Carlton fan, I think Carlton have been one of the best teams this year, but the fact they're only in 6th, I feel like it doesn't really make sense to me. I thought they've been a lot better than that. Harry Mackay had a fantastic game as well. 2 goals, but the 10 marks and the 5 tackles alongside nearly 20 touches. Paddy Cripps was great. I thought the defences lacked a little bit of polish, especially Carlton. Defensively, Carlton haven't looked good this year, and that's probably why they find themselves not in the top 4. But I do think it's an easy fix for them. I do back Vossi in just to get the defensive structure a bit more better and more defensively astute, and they'll bounce back and find themselves in the top 4. The next game's really boring. Fremantle, Western Bulldogs. I said Fremantle will win because the Doggies are frauds, and they are. There's only one man we need to talk about in this game, and it's Nat 5, who had a goal and 37 touches alongside 7 clearances. He was the best player by a country mile. I thought he was fantastic. I don't know what this means. Is it a comeback game? Is it, the return of 5? Probably not. Yep, the fact he did it against the midfield of Bunt, Libba, Treloar, McRae is phenomenal work from him. It was a battle of the midfields, and I thought Fremantle did a lot better. Western Bulldogs find themselves outside the 8th and 11th. Fremantle are in 8th place, just ahead of Gold Coast on percentage. And they looked good. They bounced back from that horrible West Coast defeat. And speaking of West Coast, who got pretty comfortably defeated by the Gold Coast Football Club, I thought the scoreboard flattered West Coast. They kicked 12 goals 3, so really accurate, but 17 goals 10 for Gold Coast. 27 scoring shots to 15 scoring shots. Says everything you need to know. 112 to 75. 37-point victors Gold Coast were, and like I said, I really thought they deserved it. Dimmer coached a really good game. Gold Coast are now in 9th place. West Coast, look, they've had 2 good wins, but they're sort of back to reality. They did rest Harley Reid, which is worth noting, which obviously he's one of their best players, so that would make life a lot harder without Harley Reid. I thought this was just basically Damien Hardwick putting his foot down, saying, I have the better list, and it was a mature win for the Gold Coast Football Club. Sorry, the West Coast Eagles unfortunately did lose. Noah Anderson probably player of the match. And then we move on to our last game, which was pretty disappointing. I thought Hawthorn were a lot better than what the scoreboard indicated. 42 to 118. Sydney won by 76 points. Sydney sitting in second in the ladder now. Hawthorn all the way down in second last with a pretty poor percentage next to Richmond. 5 goals 12. They just weren't accurate enough, Hawthorn, but it was Sydney. It was the midfield, Goulden, Warner. It was Heaney, although he picked up a little bit of a niggle there. It was Blakey, Florin, it was Lloyd, it was the defence as well. Rowbottom dominated and deserved the win. But that was a pretty boring game, so yeah. And I was pretty disappointed in Ginnivan as well. I thought Ginnivan was pretty poor. And that concludes the round. Big winners, big losers. I thought the big losers from an injury perspective, Richmond losing Hopper, thought St Kilda looking devoid, and Brisbane I thought were just useless. And exciting times, I think exciting times, for the Adelaide Football Club. I'm watching Adelaide. I think they still can make top 8. Very early on the season, I reckon they're going to get some form going. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow the TikTok FTFooty, and I'll see you in another video.